There's a man in Connecticut who shared his bed every night with his best friend. They ate together, bathed together, watched television together. He drove a car. He appeared in national commercials. His owner loved him more than almost anything in the world. His name was Travis, and he was a chimpanzee. In February 2009, Travis attacked a family friend so severely that she lost her hands, her eyes, and most of her face. The woman Travis attacked had known him for years. She wasn't a stranger. She wasn't a threat. It didn't matter. And the question that case left behind is one that most pet owners never think to ask. Not why did this happen, but something more uncomfortable. Did Travis ever actually love anyone back? Humans are wired to see love everywhere. We look at a dog wagging its tail and we feel loved. We look at a cat sitting near us and we feel chosen. We watch a snake curl around our arm and we feel trusted. And sometimes that instinct is completely correct, but sometimes it isn't. And the difference isn't about how much you love your pet. It's about something the animal either has in its brain or doesn't. Here's the thing most people don't know. Love, real attachment, requires specific brain hardware. The key chemical is oxytocin. You've probably heard it called the love hormone. It's the same chemical that floods a mother's brain when she holds her newborn. It's what bonds parents to children, partners to partners, and friends to friends over time. Here's what matters. Oxytocin is a mammal thing. Dogs have it, cats have it, rabbits have it, even rats have it. A 2015 Japanese study found something remarkable. When dogs and their owners made eye contact, oxytocin levels spiked in both of them. Not just the human, the dog too. The same bonding loop that connects human parents to their children was firing between two completely different species. That's not just loyalty. That's not just habit. That's chemistry that evolution built for love, and dogs hijacked it. Cats are more complicated. Researcher Paul Zak ran a test on 10 cats after 10 minutes of play with their owners. Oxytocin levels rose by up to 12%. Smaller than dogs, much smaller, but it was there. Something was happening. So when your dog stares at you and your cat chooses your lap over the empty couch, that's probably real. Imperfect and limited, but genuinely real. Now here's where it falls apart. Reptiles don't have oxytocin. Not a little bit of it, not a weaker version of it. They don't have it at all. Snakes, lizards, turtles, geckos, the entire reptile family runs on a much older and simpler operating system. They have a brain built for survival, hunger, temperature, threat detection, basic territory. They don't have the neural machinery for love, not because they're broken, because they never needed it. Reptiles are mostly solitary animals. They don't raise their young. They don't form pair bonds. Evolution never rewarded them for attachment, so they never developed it. What reptiles can do is recognize you. They can learn that you mean food and safety. They can tolerate your handling and eventually stop showing fear responses around you. A bearded dragon that sits calmly in your lap has decided you are not a threat. A ball python that coils loosely around your arm has decided you are warm and safe. That's real too, just not love. Scientists at Texas A&M put it plainly. I don't know if it is love, said reptile veterinarian Dr. Sharman Hops, but lizards and tortoises appear to like some people more than others. Like, not love. The distinction matters, especially if you're building an emotional relationship with an animal that has no biological capacity to build one back. But here's where it gets genuinely complicated, because the brain hardware problem doesn't only apply to reptiles. It applies to some mammals too, including some of our closest relatives. Chimpanzees are 99% genetically identical to humans. They feel fear, joy, grief, and frustration. They form social bonds within their own groups. They remember faces. They hold grudges for years. But a chimpanzee's relationship with a human is not the same as a dog's relationship with a human. Dogs spent 40,000 years evolving specifically to live alongside us. They developed the ability to read human faces, follow human gestures, and release oxytocin in response to human eye contact. Chimpanzees did none of that. A chimpanzee raised in a human home is not becoming more like a dog. It's a wild animal learning to tolerate a very strange environment until something disrupts that tolerance. Travis the chimpanzee drank wine from a long-stemmed glass. He brushed his owner's hair every night. He appeared in television commercials. By every surface measurement, he seemed bonded, tame, socialized. But on February 16, 2009, something changed. A familiar person arrived with a different hairstyle and a different car, holding a toy in front of her face. That small disruption was enough. Because Travis was never operating on the same emotional framework his owner thought he was. She loved him like a child. He experienced her more like a territory, a social anchor, a familiar feature of his environment. When something in that environment shifted in a way his brain flagged as wrong, his 200 pounds of muscle and his wild instincts took over completely. Primatologist Colleen McCann of the Wildlife Conservation Society said it directly. A chimpanzee living among people is simply a ticking bomb. No matter how many years it has lived peacefully as a pet, it is not a domesticated animal and can snap without warning. The love was entirely on one side.
So how do you know which side of this your pet is on? The honest answer is that brain hardware isn't the whole story. Individual animals vary enormously. Some cats bond deeply, some barely register their owner's existence. Some dogs form attachments so strong that researchers classify them as functionally identical to parent-child bonds. Others are indifferent to specific humans and would happily transfer their affection to anyone who fills the bowl. What researchers have identified is a set of signals that suggest genuine individual attachment versus generalized comfort seeking. Genuine attachment looks like this. The animal responds differently to you than to other humans. It seeks you out specifically when stressed, not just any available human. Your absence changes its behavior in ways that can't be explained by routine alone. When you return, the greeting is more intense after longer separations. Comfort seeking looks like this. The animal comes to you when it wants something. It relaxes near humans in general, not you specifically. It shows no meaningful difference in behavior between your presence and a stranger's. Most pets fall somewhere in between. Most dogs lean toward genuine attachment. Most cats are somewhere in the middle, tilting toward attachment with specific owners over time. Most reptiles are on the comfort-seeking end, regardless of how much time you've invested. And some animals, wild animals especially, are in a category that doesn't map onto either. Here's what this means practically. The love you feel for your pet is completely real. The time, money, grief, and joy that comes with owning an animal is completely real. Nobody is suggesting your relationship with your dog or your cat is an illusion. But some of what we interpret as love coming back is something else. A snake that stops trying to escape your hands has learned you are safe. A lizard that runs toward you has learned you bring food. A cat that sits near you may be seeking warmth or security from a familiar presence. A dog that stares at you lovingly is probably actually feeling something close to what you think it is. The difference matters because it changes what the animal needs from you. An animal capable of genuine attachment needs consistency, presence, and emotional connection. An animal operating on recognition and habit needs structure, routine, and proper environmental conditions. Treating the second category like the first leads to disappointment at best. And in cases like Travis, where a wild animal with no capacity for the kind of love humans project onto it is placed inside a human emotional framework it can never actually inhabit, it can end in tragedy. The hardest part of loving animals, honestly, is this. The fact that an animal can't love you back the way you love it doesn't make the relationship less valuable. It makes it different. A reptile that tolerates your handling and associates you with safety has given you something real on its own terms. A dog that genuinely bonds with you has given you something extraordinary on its terms. The mistake isn't loving animals. The mistake is expecting all animals to love the way humans do. Some of them have the hardware for it,
And some of them, no matter how much you love them, how long you've had them, how human you've made their lives, simply don't. Travis's owner loved him for 14 years. It wasn't enough. Because love, it turns out, is not just a feeling, it's a biological system, and not every animal comes equipped with one pointed in your direction.